Okay, this is the final distance learning packet for May 13th. And we are moving into square roots and cube roots. And there's some examples of what they mean and how to estimate, and then finding a cube root. So the most important thing is for square roots, it's actually one of two equal factors. So square root of 81, the two equal factors is 9 and 9. 9 times 9 is 81. And then the answer of square root of 81 is one of those, which is 9. And then for a cube root, it's one of three equal factors. So if we find three numbers that are multiplied to make 216 and all three numbers are the same, that number would be 6. So 6 is the cube root of 216. So just examples, and that should help us for the next page. So we want square root. Of course, you can use a calculator. That's the straightforward way. Type it in. I mean, it's good to know how to use that, how to find the square root key. Some phones, you have to turn it sideways to get it. Just make sure, you do know how to use it. But we can also look at our multiplication table, and down the diagonal is all of the perfect squares, which are the numbers underneath of these square roots. And then if we go up or to the left, we will find the actual square root. So thinking about your multiplication table, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, that's the diagonal. So the square root of 16 is 4. So square root of 16 is 4. So remember, it just means what two numbers that are the exact same are going to multiply to make 16. And the only thing that works is 4. 4 times 4 is 16, so the square root of 16 is 4. Or another way to think of it is the side length. So the area of a square is 16. So what is the side length? Remember, area is the length times width, but for a square, the length and the width are the same. So the area equals square, or side times side, or side squared. So it's got to be the same number. So what goes there? That would be a 4. So that's what we're looking for, the side length of a square. So again, this is all review. We've done this before. Look at your multiplication table, look at the diagonal, find the number, and then go to the left or go to the top to get your square root. And all of these are going to work out to be perfect squares, so the answers are going to be whole numbers. Okay, cube roots. So this one, we need three numbers that we multiply together that have to be the same. That will give us the number underneath of that cube root symbol. So let's look at number 7. Okay, 125. So how can we get that? Think of 5 times 5, which is 25 times 5, which is 125. Okay, so if that works, it's all the same number. So then the cube root of 125 is 5. And from there, you should be able to figure out the rest. So cube root of 64, okay, 64 is smaller than 125. So it's not going to be 5. So maybe even if you don't know, we don't have a table for this, and it's a lot more difficult to do these in a calculator, especially on a phone. Sometimes they have a cube root button, but a lot of times they don't. So we could just try it. So I know it can't be 5, right? So let's try the next smaller ones. That's 4. So 4 times 4 times 4. So if this equals 64, then our answer is 4. So what's 4 times 4? That's 16 times 4 is 64. So then the cube root of 64 is 4. And then you can work your way through the rest of these, okay? And it's almost like guess and check, but we already have an idea of what it should be, so we can take a much more educated guess to figure it out. And then three numbers that are the same, multiply them. If you get the number underneath of the cube root, then that's your answer. Okay, now we just need to put this into practice, and we are simplifying these. All right, so let's do some of these fractions. So like number 3. Okay, I'm going to split this up into the cube root of the numerator over the cube root of the denominator. Okay, so we just did cube root of 64, right? That was on the previous page. That was 4. Cube root of 27. Okay, well, 27 is smaller than 64, so let's try 3. 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Okay, so then that has to be 3. And that's it. Okay, if we could simplify that fraction, we would, but it is already simplified. All right, let's try one with a negative, like number 2. So the negative's on the outside of the square root. So remember, it's a square root if there's no number there. So there's no 3, so it has to be square root. So we already did this one. Well, it was on 2 pages ago, but it was along the diagonal of our multiplication table. So the square root of 144, what 2 numbers multiply to make 144? Well, that's 12 times 12. So then this part is 12, but then we have the negative in front. So this is going to equal negative 12. Okay? And then number 5, number 6, we find the answer, and we just put that symbol. It's plus or minus. We just leave it in front of the number that we get. Okay, how about number 5? That's a decimal. So what I like to do is just kind of ignore the decimal for now. So what's the square root of 225? Okay, it's also on our multiplication table. So let's say let's try 15 times 15. So it's much easier to multiply in a calculator than it is to do the square root, especially, well, if you don't have the square root symbol, you can't do it. So 15 times 15. So if that equals 225, then that's our good starting point. So it does equal 225. But we don't want 225. We want 2.25. So what if I tried 1.5 times? It has to be this exact same, so we have to do the same thing. We can't do 1.5 times 15. It has to be 1.5 times 1.5. So try that in your calculator. So 1.5, let's do it here. 1.5 times 1.5 equals 2.25. So that's what we want. Okay, so then it's going to be plus or minus. It's just a plus above a minus symbol. 1.5. Okay, so that one of those equal factors. Okay, so that's good. So the rest looks like we can do. We've done a fraction, plus or minus. We had a negative in front. There's one that's different than all the rest, and that's number 7, because now the minus or the negative symbol is underneath of the square root. So if you have a calculator that can do square root, so we're going to split this up just like we did on number 3. So we're going to look at it like this. Okay, square root of 100, I know what that is. That's 10. Okay, that's also on my multiplication table. And I know the square root of 81, which is 9. So what if I just put a negative 9? Okay, so what does that mean, though? Remember, we have to multiply it by itself and get the number that's underneath of the square root. So if I take negative 9 times negative 9, negative 9 times negative 9, I will get a negative times a negative is positive. I will get positive 81. So how do I get that minus, that negative symbol right there? Okay, so try it in your calculator. Take negative 81. Okay, 81. I'm going to make it negative. Then I'm going to take the square root, which is the key with the square root and the x underneath. So if I hit that button, I get an error. All right, so for now, we can't do that. In high school, you'll learn how to handle square roots of negative numbers. But for right now, we can't solve it. Okay, it's undefined. So we cannot. There is no answer for right now. Okay, it is not negative 9 over 10. So this is just, let's just call it undefined. And all the rest are fine. That was just, I think, probably a mistake. But yeah, we will run into that, and we just need to know that we cannot take the square root of a negative number. Okay, that's it for day